My parents threw my brother a celebration for getting promoted. I got a mug and a card that said, maybe next time. So I quietly signed a lease in Prague and posted a caption, this year, I celebrate myself. I got the birthday email while sitting in a cubicle under flickering office lights. The subject line was just, happy birthday, and the message was as empty as it sounded. Hope it's a good one. Love, Mom and Dad. No call. No card. Not even a let's grab dinner soon. I stared at it for a minute before closing the tab. Then I opened another one, pulled up the Facebook album my parents had posted 3 weeks earlier, celebrating Alex's big promotion, and clicked through the pictures. There was a private room at some steakhouse in Boston. Balloons that spelled out VP Alex. Everyone dressed like it was a wedding. Champagne flutes, confetti, even a personalized cake with frosting that probably cost more than my birthday lunch. I remember because I chipped in for it. My name wasn't mentioned once. I'm Darren. I'm 27 and I live in Providence, Rhode Island. I work as a corporate analyst for a firm that sells real estate investment products to insurance companies. It's about as dull as it sounds, but it pays okay, and I'm good at it. Just not worthy of a steakhouse party. Good, I guess. We did end up doing something. A family lunch at a chain restaurant my mom picked. Said it was halfway between us and not too expensive. I showed up in a nice button-down. Alex wore sweats and sunglasses, like he was hungover and doing us a favor by existing. They gave me a ceramic mug from some gift shop in Maine. It still had the barcode on it, and a gift card to a grocery store chain I didn't even shop at. Inside the card, in my mom's cursive, maybe next time. Next time what? Alex chuckled and said, at least it's not socks. Dad laughed along. I forced a smile. I sipped my iced tea while everyone else dug into their burgers. My mom noticed the look on my face. Oh, Darren, don't be so sensitive, she said, like I just spilled something. It's just a little fun. Sure, just a little fun. Like how Alex got a speech and a toast and a bottle of 2008 Bordeaux when he got promoted. But when I got mine last year, I got a thumbs up emoji in the family group chat. I kept my mouth shut. Told myself it wasn't worth it. It never was. Instead, I ate my lunch and nodded along while Alex talked about the new apartment he was moving into with some help from Dad, of course, and my parents asked 0 questions about my job, my life, or anything that didn't involve my brother. Back in the car afterward, I turned the souvenir mug over in my hands. There was a chip on the bottom. Maybe next time, I whispered to myself, and for the first time, the phrase didn't sting. It just sounded finished, like a door clicking shut. Maybe there wouldn't be a next time, and maybe that was okay. I didn't make a scene when we said goodbye. That was never my style. We stood outside the restaurant in the parking lot, next to my car. My mom gave me a quick hug and reminded me to drive safe. Dad said something about needing to rotate the tires soon, like I didn't already know. Alex fist bumped me like we were college buddies. No mention of seeing each other again soon. No plans to celebrate properly later. Just vague nods and casual goodbyes like I was someone they barely knew. I got into my car, shut the door, and just sat there with my hands on the wheel. The mug and the card were in the passenger seat. I stared at them for a long minute before tossing both into the glove compartment. Then I started the car, but I didn't drive home. Not right away. Instead, I parked a few blocks away in a quiet lot behind a bookstore, pulled out my phone, and opened a travel app. I typed in one word, Prague. It was the kind of place I used to dream about back when I was still pretending the world was wide open and people could be who they wanted, not just who their families expected. The fare popped up. One-way ticket. Pricey, but not impossible. And for the first time in years, I didn't second-guess it. I booked it. Train from Providence to JFK. Flight out 2 days later. I didn't even check with my boss. I just started the process to use up my vacation time. I'd deal with the rest later. Then I opened Instagram and posted a photo, not of me, but of a tiny train station cafe I'd found online, the kind that served espresso in porcelain cups and had exposed brick walls. I added a caption. Business class for the ones who've been benched. Within 10 minutes, my mom texted. What does that mean? Are you okay? I locked my phone and dropped it into my backpack without answering. The next morning, I left the souvenir mug on the kitchen counter and packed a single duffel bag. I took my passport from the back of my desk drawer, the one I'd been telling myself I'd use someday. At the station, I bought a black coffee, found a window seat on the train, and didn't look back. As the train pulled away, I watched the landscape change, strip malls fading into forest, parking lots turning into rivers, and I felt something loosen in my chest. Something uncoil. It wasn't freedom, exactly. But it was the start. I arrived in Prague on a gray Tuesday morning, sleep-deprived and a little disoriented from the layover in Zurich. But the moment I stepped outside the terminal and felt the crisp spring air hit my face, something in me settled. The city felt like another world. Trams rattled past centuries-old buildings. People moved with purpose, but no one seemed in a hurry. The streets smelled like coffee and rain. I checked into a small guest house tucked behind a narrow alley near the Vltava River. It was run by an elderly couple named Yuri and Linka. She handed me the key with both hands like it was something sacred, and he offered to carry my bag upstairs even though I insisted I could manage. Their English was limited, but warm smiles go a long way. My room had a single bed, a wooden desk, and a window that overlooked a red tile roof. It didn't look like much, but after years of neutral office cubicles and two-bedroom apartments filled with silence, it felt like a beginning. For the first 3 days, I didn't do much. I walked, for hours, through twisting cobblestone streets and quiet courtyards, past cathedrals with soot-darkened towers. I sat on benches in empty parks and watched old couples feed the birds. I ate roasted pork from a street vendor and drank coffee that made my hands shake. I kept my phone on airplane mode except to take pictures. I wrote in a journal I picked up at a used bookstore. Nothing profound, just fragments. Feelings. Memories. Little truths I'd never said out loud. One entry said, "I thought distance would hurt more than it does." Another said, "Peace feels like something I stole. Like it's not mine to keep." The messages started piling up on day 4. First from Mom. "Please just tell me you're safe." Then, "Are you really this upset about a gift card?" Then Dad chimed in. "Your brother says you're acting like a child." I didn't answer. The text shifted, concern turned into guilt tripping, then radio silence, then another round of just checking in. But then one message came that stopped me mid-bite at a cafe near Charles Bridge. It was from my cousin Jason. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. "Hey, I saw your post. Just wanted to say. I get it. It's not in your head. It never was. I used to feel it too. You were always the one left out, Darren. And it was never fair." I read it twice, then a third time, and I felt it, that thing I hadn't let myself admit. Validation. Maybe I wasn't just being sensitive. Maybe I wasn't crazy or dramatic. Maybe leaving wasn't running away. Maybe it was the first real decision I'd made for myself in years. I was sitting on the guest house balcony sipping tea when I got the message from Kara, a former coworker I hadn't spoken to in months. "Hey, weird question. Is everything okay with your family? Just saw something odd on Alex's feed." I felt my stomach twist. I hadn't checked social media in days. I'd been trying to live outside of it, outside of everything, really. But curiosity overruled peace. I opened the app. There it was. A photo of Alex sitting between my parents on the front porch of our childhood home. He was holding a rake and wearing work gloves, fake dirt smudged on his cheek. The caption read, "Spending the weekend helping Mom and Dad with yard work. Some of us stick around when it matters. Hashtag family first, hashtag do the work, hashtag no vacations needed." It had over 200 likes and a dozen comments. I started reading them, even though I knew I shouldn't. "Such a good son. They're lucky to have you. Wish more people had your values." Then one from Aunt Maureen. "Not everyone steps up like this. Some people just disappear when things get hard." I stopped reading. I stared at the screen, unblinking. Not angry yet. Not even sad. Just stunned. I hadn't said a word publicly. I hadn't aired anything. I'd walked away quietly. Respectfully. But Alex? He was rewriting the story like it was his job. Like the truth was a cheap prop he could bend for applause. He made it sound like I abandoned our parents in some moment of crisis. Like I had run off to sip lattes in Europe while he heroically saved the family from some imaginary burden. Never mind that I'd been paying for Dad's blood pressure medication for the past 2 years. Or that I was the one who helped Mom refinance the house. Or that I'd spent a decade being the dependable, invisible son, the one who didn't complain, didn't need attention, didn't ask for more. Alex had swooped in, posed for a picture, and declared himself the savior. I didn't even care that it was a lie. What hit me was the strategy. The precision of it. How calculated it all felt. The way he framed it, passive enough to be deniable, sharp enough to land the jab. This wasn't just about family drama. This was about control. About the narrative. About making sure that if anyone asked why Darren wasn't around, they already had an answer. He left. Alex stayed. Case closed. And it worked. Because no one questioned it. No one asked why I left. They just filled in the blanks the way Alex wanted them to. I put my phone face down on the table. My tea had gone cold. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there, the weight of the silence pressing against my chest. For the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't emotional immaturity. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was performance. And I had been cut from the script. Not because I didn't belong, but because I didn't play the part they wanted me to. I never planned on posting anything. But the morning after Alex's yard work post, I woke up to another message, this time from my old manager, Claire. "Darren, saw your brother's post. Just want you to know that those of us who know you, we know better." Something about that did it. Not the message itself, but the fact that people outside the family were watching this play out, reading the fiction, nodding along, and assuming I was the villain in some story I didn't even get to speak in. I opened my laptop and stared at the blank status box for 20 minutes. Then I started typing. I didn't write in anger. I wrote in clarity. I wasn't going to say anything publicly, but after seeing the narrative that's being crafted, I feel like I owe myself, and maybe others, the truth. Not out of revenge. Not out of spite. Just out of self-respect. And then I laid it out. How birthdays were forgotten. How milestones were ignored. How my brother's smallest accomplishments sparked celebrations, while mine were quietly passed over. How I once got a text that said, "Congrats, buddy," the day I signed a six-figure contract at work, with no follow-up. No call. Nothing. I wrote about the birthday lunch, the souvenir mug, the maybe next time card. I wrote about Prague and how I didn't leave in anger, but in grief. How I had finally realized that being quiet and loyal only works if someone notices. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't sling mud. I just told the truth. Some of us were raised to believe that staying silent was the high road, that not making waves meant being mature. But silence is not the same as peace. And loyalty that isn't mutual is just self-betrayal. By the time I clicked post, my hands were shaking. Within an hour, the likes started trickling in. Then comments. Then messages. Friends. Old coworkers. A few people I barely knew from college. I relate to this more than I should. Thank you for putting this into words. Same thing happened to me with my sister. You're not alone. One message stood out. It was from Aunt Lisa, my mom's cousin, the one who always lived too far away to visit often. I always noticed how different they treated you. Just wanted to say I see you now. And I'm sorry I never said anything before. I stared at that one for a while. Then I read it again. In the days that followed, the post spread. Not viral like celebrity viral, but real enough. Honest enough. People kept sharing it. Commenting with their own stories. Siblings forgotten. Parents who played favorites. Entire families built on silence and selective memory. My inbox flooded. And not a single message accused me of being bitter. It was the opposite. People said it gave them courage. That it made them feel less crazy. That maybe they weren't the problem either. Back in Prague, I walked across the Charles Bridge at sunset, phone buzzing in my pocket, and felt something I hadn't in a long time. Not victory. Not closure. Just weightless. I had finally said the thing I wasn't supposed to say. And instead of rejection, I found resonance. Instead of shame, I found breath. Speaking didn't make me weak. It made me real. It came in the form of an email. No subject line. Just an image attachment and a 6-word message. Didn't think you were coming back. I clicked on the photo. It was my old bedroom. Except it wasn't my bedroom anymore. The twin bed was gone. The bookshelves I built with Dad when I was 14 were empty. My posters, my desk, even the old rug, all gone. In their place, a sleek white desk, a leather office chair, a second monitor on a stand. The room was clean. Cold. A home office. For my mother. I stared at the image for a while. Not angry. Not even shocked. Just still. The timing wasn't an accident. She waited. She saw my post, no doubt heard the fallout buzzing through the family grapevine, and this was her response. No apology. No conversation. Just an erasure. I closed the email. Then I opened a new one. You don't have to make room. I already found mine. I clicked send. That night, I met with a local real estate agent, a friend of the couple who ran the guest house. He spoke English with a thick accent and handed me a list of available studios within walking distance of the city center. By the end of the week, I signed a lease on a 4th-floor walk-up with creaky stairs and a skylight that let the morning sun pour in like honey. The kitchen was barely a nook, but it was mine. I moved in with one suitcase, a laptop, and a growing sense of finality. Later that evening, I drafted my resignation email. It didn't take long. I had already missed 2 virtual check-ins with my team back home, and no one seemed to mind. My manager sent a vague, "hope you're okay" message after my viral post, but she didn't push. I told them the truth. I've decided to pursue a new chapter abroad, one that prioritizes personal growth over spreadsheets and performance metrics. Thank you for the opportunity, but I won't be returning. I hit send, and that was that. I'd always thought cutting ties would feel violent, like slamming a door or shouting into the void. But it didn't. It felt like placing a stone gently on a riverbed and watching the current carry it away. My family made the decision easy when they turned my childhood room into a workspace before I even unpacked my suitcase. That wasn't grief. It was calculation. And if they could clear the room without a word, then I could clear my future without guilt. For the first time in my life, I wasn't orbiting anyone. I was standing still, right where I belonged. The translation firm was small, 6 employees, 2 cramped rooms, and a coffee machine that wheezed like it had asthma, but they gave me a chance. I started with basic proofreading for English check documents. Nothing glamorous. Nothing permanent. Just something to do that wasn't spiraling in my own head. Within a few weeks, I was taking on bigger projects. Marketing briefs, tourism materials, even a couple government forms. I started learning Czech seriously, too, not just the tourist phrases, But the verbs, the sentence structures, the weird little rules that made it feel like math with heart. Most nights I fell asleep with flashcards on my chest. Weekends, I joined a photography club that met in Letna Park. I didn't own a fancy camera, just an old Nikon I found at a second-hand shop, but that didn't matter. No one cared how expensive your gear was. They cared about light, and color, and mood. There was something quieting about it. Pointing a lens at a street musician, a couple dancing in an alley, the way the sun hit the spires at dusk, it gave me a reason to look at things again. Closely. Kindly. I made friends, slowly. A translator named Tomas who loved bad action movies. A woman named Iveta who made jewelry from recycled glass and had a dog with 3 legs and no fear. No one asked about my family. No one knew about Alex or birthday gift cards or souvenir mugs. I didn't have to explain myself. I just got to be. Back home, the messages hadn't stopped entirely. They just got quieter, more spaced out. Every few weeks, a new attempt would show up. Hope you're well. Dad's knee is acting up. You know, it's not too late to talk. But I never replied. Not because I was angry, but because I wasn't lonely anymore. Then one morning, I got an email from a small independent press based in Portland. The editor wrote that someone had forwarded them my post, the one that went viral, and asked if I had ever considered expanding it into a longer piece. We think there's a story here. A real one. I stared at the screen, blinking. A story? Yeah, there was one. I opened a blank document and typed the title across the top in bold. Next time is now. And for the first time, I didn't write about what I lost. I wrote about what I found. A year later, the book was published. Next Time Is Now wasn't a bestseller, not in the traditional sense. It didn't hit any top 10 lists or land me a TED Talk. But it moved. It got passed around book clubs and office Slack channels. People shared passages like scripture, underlined, highlighted, screenshotted. The messages came pouring in again. From people I'd never met. This healed something I didn't know needed healing. You told my story better than I ever could. Thank you for making me feel seen. Every time I read one, I felt like a piece of the old weight slid off my back. Like the silence that once suffocated me had been turned into something that breathed on its own. Then, one night, I got a message from Alex. The notification came while I was chopping onions in my new apartment. I glanced down and saw his name. So you wrote a book about how terrible we are? What happened to keeping family business private? You're a damn coward. I read it once, then deleted it. Not because it didn't bother me, it did, a little, but because I didn't know that anger a seat at my table anymore. Let him yell into the wind. I was done being his echo. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but from peace. On my birthday, I woke up before dawn and walked to my favorite cafe on the edge of Old Town. The owner, Hannah, already knew me by name. She greeted me with a grin and asked, "Special day?" I nodded. She brought me a slice of layered honey cake, Medovnik, with a single candle on top. I hadn't mentioned it was my birthday. She just remembered. As she lit the candle, she asked gently, "Celebrating something?" I smiled. Yeah, myself. I didn't make a wish. I just watched the flame flicker, the wax drip, the quiet morning light fill the room. No souvenir mugs. No coded jabs hidden inside grocery store gift cards. Just warmth. Just a slice of cake and a name spoken without obligation. Later that afternoon, I got an email from a woman named Anya, a reader from Minnesota. She wrote, "I left home at 24. Everyone said I was selfish. But your story helped me understand that saving myself wasn't betrayal, it was survival. I hope you keep writing." I wrote back, not with something profound, just a thank you. But my fingers lingered on the keyboard. And I realized I wasn't the quiet one anymore. I was the one who spoke. And this time, people were listening.